Hello and welcome to this Getting Started with Mentimeter interactive webinar. Thank you so much for joining us, everybody. I can see we've already got a few people who've logged into the presentation and they've dropped their pin on where they are right now. But for those of you that haven't, I want to encourage you to grab your smartphone or open a new tab in your browser and head over to menti.com and type in the code at the top of the screen, 6444640, and you can join in the presentation with everybody else and let us know where you're joining us from. While a few people maybe do that, I know we've got 107 people in today, but only 38 in the presentation so far. So maybe some people want to catch up. While they're doing that, I will just talk you through a couple of other things you'll see when you log in to the presentation on your phone. So there's the little sort of oval with 3 dots, the comments from audience feature. If you want to use that, you can click on that and type a little comment, and you can, some people have already figured it out, you can send me a little comment and it will appear just on the right-hand side of the presentation, just there. I mean, we've got a pretty diverse audience today, so if you want to say hello in your native language, pop that in the comments to audience and send that in, and we can say everyone's saying hello to each other. The other thing that you'll see just above comments from audience is the open Q&A button. The Q&A function in Mentimeter is really, really useful. We're going to be making use of it at the end of this webinar. So any questions that you have during the course of the webinar, open up the Q&A option on your phone and you can send me a question and I'll try and get around to answering them. Anything that I don't cover in this webinar, any burning questions that you've got, let me know and we'll get round to them. So where have we got people from? We've got a good contingent from Western Europe, which is always really, really well represented in these webinars. This is our pin on image feature, which is really, really cool. You don't have to use a world map. You can choose any image that you want and ask your audience to place a pin on it. So there's loads of different uses for it. And when pins are close together, they sort of bunch up and they get numbered. So you can see it's a big number over Western Europe there, but that's people from Germany, from Poland, from the UK, I think, maybe from the Netherlands. We have a good representation from the US today as well. That's good. From Brazil and Argentina, a couple of people from India. That's really great to see. So let's move on from this and get into the presentation. So what are we here to do today? We are here to have an interactive webinar to introduce you as the audience to Mentimeter as a tool. I'm going to hopefully introduce you to the tool, and I will help you get started with making your first presentation. So a couple of bits of housekeeping before we get started. You need to have your smartphone at the ready, logged in, ready to go. We have the chat. We're using Livestorm to stream this webinar. So we've got the chat function in Livestorm, which is going to be moderated by my brilliant colleague, Emma. But that being said, I do want to encourage you as much as possible to use Mentimeter. This is a getting started with Mentimeter webinar. So for your benefit to get used to using it, definitely use the Q&A feature, but we'll get round to at the end. But as I say, during the course of the webinar, any burning questions, any bits of information you really need to know, reach out to Emma and she'll be able to get back to you. And finally, this webinar is recorded. So if I go too fast or if there's any bits of information that you catch that you just miss and you want to go back to, it's recorded and it's going to land in your email inbox as soon as the webinar finishes. So look out for that. And with that being said, we can begin. So first of all, I'll address the elephant in the room. I am not Oscar Svernlov. In some of the promotional material, you might see Oscar's face. And my brilliant colleague, Oscar, does usually host these Getting Started webinars, but he couldn't make it today. So I have temporarily stepped into his shoes and taken over the reins. So who am I? Well, my name is Thomas Dawson. I actually work on the written side of the content team here at Mentimeter. I usually play the moderator role in webinars. I usually play Emma's role. But today I'm stepping into Oscar's shoes to be the host. A couple of little details about me. You probably know that I'm from the UK, although I live in Sweden at the moment. I love music. I'm notorious for taking over the playlist at the Mentimeter offices, and I love sweets, or candy for our American friends. So let's get into the webinar properly. Now I've introduced myself. What are we going to be doing today? What's on today's agenda? Well, I'm going to try and answer the big basic question: what is Mentimeter? I'm then going to try and guide you through the process of creating your first presentation. And we'll go through all the different slide types, question types, and some potential uses, suggested uses, but you could do way more than I'm going to be able to show you today. And at the end of the webinar, we'll have a 15-minute Q&A session where you can ask me any remaining questions, and I'll try and answer them for you. So let's turn the attention to you now. I've introduced myself to you, but I want to know you a little bit better. So how many of you have used Mentimeter before? Let's have a look. Okay, a few people have not used it before. That's good. That's what we're here for. A few people have only voted in a presentation. Some people don't know what Mentimeter is. Interesting. I don't know how you ended up here, but we'll try and make things clear for you by the end. We've got a few super users, I think, as well. A few people who've used it several times. Congratulations to you. Maybe I'll show you a couple of tips and tricks during the course of this, but maybe you know everything already. I don't know. But it looks like our key demographic is here. People who've only voted before, people who've never used Mentimeter before. That's what we're here to do. And those people who haven't used it before, congratulations. Now you have. You've voted in your first Mentimeter, so you're well on your way to becoming a super user with the 17% over there. So let me get into the big basic question. What is Mentimeter? Well, Mentimeter is an interactive presentation platform. You can use it a lot like PowerPoint, or you can use it a lot like Google Slides, but it has this extra element where it's interactive. So you can get your audience to participate in your presentations, and you can get sort of live, in the moment feedback of what you're doing. Mentimeter is a powerful and beautifully designed, if I can say so, presentations and pre-surveys tool. You can use it to engage your audience with interactive questions or quizzes, and you can follow up your presentations by distributing the presentation and collecting feedback. And so that's the elevator pitch. Hopefully that's clarified a few things for anyone who really didn't know what Mentimeter was at the start. But again, I'm going to turn things back on you, because you've all arrived here because you maybe signed up to Mentimeter and you received an email inviting you to this session. So I want to know, what are you going to be using Mentimeter for? This will help me sort of tailor the content of the webinar a little bit to find out what it is that you intend to use Mentimeter for when you become super users, which I'm sure you all are going to do. So it looks like we've got training sessions and workshops is a big one. Education is always big. Meetings and team management. Meetings is a really great use of this, because we do meetings daily, maybe weekly, and it's a really great thing to sort of liven them up and have meetings in your organization that are a little bit more engaging than maybe just a standard presentation can allow you to do. But yeah, it looks like our strongest contingents are training sessions, education. These are really good uses, and definitely education we're going to touch on in a little bit of detail. So that's that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to move into the next stage of the webinar, which is where I'm going to talk you through creating your first presentation. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to move off this presentation, and I'm going to show you how to create your first presentation. So when you come to create your first presentation, you're going to land here on Mentimeter.com. And this is the standard sort of homepage, landing page of Mentimeter. You can see our logo at the top there. There's a few bits of useful information. You can look at the features that we offer. We have different bits of solutions and templates and things like that for different types of users. We also have a blog, which has some really useful sort of inspirational content. We have sort of two separate things. We have our help articles, which are really useful for any real specific questions that you have. And we also have our blog, which is more aspirational, giving you sort of tips and tricks about how to have an interactive classroom, how to become a better facilitator, these kinds of things. But if we're creating our first presentation, we want to go here to the top right-hand corner to your presentations. And we land in here. You can see I've not been creating too many presentations recently. This is today's. And when you create a presentation, this is where they're going to show up when you come into your presentations. But we're going to start a new presentation right here. So I'm going to click on that, and maybe for this first one, we'll pretend that I'm a teacher. I'm teaching an English class, a literature class, and I want to have a class on a book that we're covering. So we'll do it on Charles Dickens's Bleak House and Law. So we're going to do that, and we're going to head into it. And when you land in here, it's going to be pretty familiar territory. On this left-hand side, you'll have your slides, and as you add to those will sort of get lined up into the chronological order that you present them in. In this middle section here, you have the slide that you're working on. And then down on this right-hand side is where things get a little bit more complicated, where we offer a little bit more than some other platforms, where you have all the different slide types that you can choose from. So for my class today, I'm just going to have a title slide. Jazz this up a little bit. I'm going to add a photo of Charles Dickens. Why not? This is really useful. You can add in your own photos, but you can also make use of this image library. We have Unsplash embedded into our platform, so you can just go in and use these photos in your presentations. They're free to use. There's no copyright attached to them. They're CC0, I think. And we also have some GIFs if that's your thing. But I'm going to use an image that I've saved for myself today, because this is a serious class. There's no GIFs and no memes today. And I'm going to put it in like that. I think that looks pretty good. And then I'm going to add a new slide. So I'm going to go to this top left-hand corner here, hit new slide. And then I'm going to add in a little quote from Bleak House. This is Charles Dickens. What does it all mean? And if it means anything to anyone, that probably means nothing to me. Genuine quote from Bleak House there. But this is pretty standard stuff. We've got two nice little slides here. We've got my title slide and then a little introductory quote from my class. How do I make it a little bit more energized? How do I get my class involved in this? Maybe a good introductory one is our word cloud slide type. So I'm going to go in here. Oops, I didn't mean to change that. There we go. Easily changed back. I'm going to go for a new slide. and I'm going to add a word cloud. So I'm just going to ask my class right at the top of the lesson, what did you think? Yes. Just to check the temperature of the room, see what everyone thought of it, and it might come up something like this. They'll say, this is just test votes, by the way, so these are not necessarily related to Bleak House at all, but gives you a sort of vision of what it might look like when you're presenting. So that's there's a few shortcuts that you can use, but that's T. If you hit T, whenever you're making a presentation, you can see the test votes and just see what it looks like. So I'm going to head back. That's a good introductory one, but you know, they should have read this book, my class, I hope, and I want to know that they've really engaged with it. So I'm going to ask them something a little bit more challenging. I'm going to go for an open-ended question instead, where I'm going to ask them, what do you think about narrative in the law? This is in literature. And that's a little bit more challenging for them. So they will come into this and they'll be able to see, and I can let the answer just come in and see what they think about law and literature, or I can hit H and hide the votes, let everyone submit an answer, let them say something, and then I will hit H and reveal all the answers, and then as a class we can discuss what everyone said. Pick out some really good ones, pick out some that seem a little bit confused, and try and clarify things for everybody. But it's super useful for that, because it really just sort of sparks any kind of conversation, sparks discussions, and helps you in the classroom to particularly help those shyer students or shyer pupils who maybe don't want to raise their hand, they don't want to make too much noise, but they have something really valuable to say. So Mentimeter, because it's anonymous, because people can just type things and you don't necessarily know who it's come from, it really gives people license to say things. That being said, I think what I just said probably set off a few alarm bells with a few teachers, and they think, oh no, people can just say whatever they want. That doesn't really work in the classroom, because there's a few jokesters and a few people who like to be a little bit naughty. So what we have within Mentimeter as well is a profanity filter, and this is super useful, definitely useful for teachers, because any sort of profanities that you don't want to come up in your word clouds, you can come in here and you can pick the language that you're teaching in, and that will sort of rule out any profanities. You can also, if you hover over a word when it does appear in a word cloud, you can also just delete it as well, which is super useful. So that's teaching. I'll move on a little bit from teaching. I'll go we'll start another one, and maybe we'll go for a little bit more of a business set kind of presentation. So we'll just go for, I'm a team leader in my organization, and we have a weekly meeting where we catch up on what's going on with our latest projects. So for this one, let's say this is our organization's weekly meetings. I've chosen the bullets, slide type, weekly meeting agenda, and then maybe we're going to talk about our hiring practices. We're going to talk about our new office, or we might want to talk about any upcoming projects. And then after that, I'm going to add a new slide, and then I'm going to take the temperature of the room, because I don't want to just race in. I want to find out which items on the agenda do we think are the most learning practices? New office or new projects? And then while I'm talking, my team can sort of give me some feedback and just sort of let me know what they think is the most important. And then we can sort of dive into that first, or we can spend the most time on that. It means that we can use the meeting more efficiently, we can use our own time more efficiently. And it means that, you know, we've all had pointless meetings, we've all had meetings that could have been emails. This really helps you just sort of figure out, what do people think is important? How can we best spend the time in this meeting? Super useful for anything like that, and it doesn't involve anyone raising their hand or like feeling like they're sort of taking over the meeting or taking over the room. We can just do this democratically, so that's super useful. Also, in my weekly meeting, maybe I want to, in this weekly meeting, maybe it's the start of a new quarter or the start of a new cycle of ideas. So I might go for the open-ended question type again and ask, what types of project should we try and prioritize this quarter? And then again, when the meeting can throw up some ideas, we can generate some discussion, we can get some ideas out there, people can say, well, hone in on the ideas that we collectively think are really good, and we can sort of get things up on a discussion board, and we can scroll through and just see what people think is good. Okay, fair enough. So we've got a little bit of time left, maybe 5 minutes before we get to the Q&A. So I'll just highlight a couple of other features that are really useful in Mentimeter. In the settings in particular, you can change presentation language, which is really useful because obviously people can use this all over the world. You don't just have to change the language that you're writing your presentation in. You can change the language that people see when they log in on their phone. So you can do that in the settings. We've got quite a few language settings that you can make use of. So that's obviously super useful for people using us around the world. You can change the pace that you send the presentation out with. Well, first of all, you can send the presentation out before you present it, which is super useful. So if you go into share at the top right-hand corner there, you can see the various ways you can share your presentation. The voting code does expire after 2 days, so to save yourself resending the code out every single time or risking it expiring on people, you can send the voting link, and then the voting link here sort of will stay with the presentation that it is generated with, so people can always go back to the same presentation. It's not going to expire, it's not going to change. Or you can use the QR code, which is also super useful. But once people have the link, you can change how they view the presentation, so you can switch to audience pace. And that means that before a training session, before a particular meeting, before a class, if you want your students to do some homework, you can set it to audience pace, and they can go through the presentation at their own pace, answer any question types that you've put in there, or they can or react to things and vote in polls. And then when you come to present it in the meeting or in the training session or in the class, you can already see what people's responses are. And it's a real good time saver, and it means you can just get to what people have said before the meeting, and we can sort of get to what's on everyone's mind. I think that's pretty much everything I wanted to cover. You can change language, it's anonymous. We have a profanity filter. There are different ways of joining, and you can change to audience pace if you like. So that's pretty much everything I wanted to say. So I think we can probably move into the question and answer section of this webinar. Let me get my original presentation back up. Here we are. So I'll wait for any questions to come in. But in the meantime, I'll say that it's been a real pleasure. Let me just have a look at the chat in Livestorm and see what people have been saying. Mind blown. Nice. Here we are. We've got some questions coming through. So sorry for that bit of dead space. Yes, lots of questions coming in now. Yes, can I show you how to import a presentation, a PowerPoint presentation? Absolutely. So let me just toggle back and forth a bit here. Sorry about that. Let me go back to my weekly meeting. So if you want to import a PowerPoint presentation, I think Emma will be able to send, there's a YouTube video on this, and there's a help article on how to integrate Mentimeter with PowerPoint. But one of the ways you can do it is you can go to import here. It's next to new slide. And I actually don't have any PowerPoints on this computer. It's my work computer. But if you go into that tab and then you go and find the file, the PowerPoint file that you want to put in, you can upload it and it will come into this this slide deck here. The important thing to know about PowerPoint is that it does work pretty well. The only thing that doesn't really transfer over is the animations. The animations don't really work, but it's still worth doing because you can have the interactivity of Mentimeter. You can also do it the other way. There is a PowerPoint plugin, so you can use PowerPoint as PowerPoint, and you can use a Mentimeter plugin that allows you to insert some question type slide types. That should also be in the help article, but again, it's a little bit clunky. Trying to get two different sort of systems to mesh is a bit of a challenge. So I definitely recommend doing everything in Mentimeter if at all possible. But I know a lot of people have PowerPoints that they've already made that they're quite attached to. So I understand the desire to keep them. So let me toggle back. That one's answered. Can I download the answers for processing elsewhere and long-term storage? Yes. So the answers from the presentations that you give when you deliver them, each session that you use them for is saved, which is super useful because it means that you can like track the history of the responses and sort of monitor for any changes over time. But you can also export the answers that you do get. You can export them in Excel form, I think, and you can also export them as a PDF. I think I'm right in saying. I think Emma might be able to put a help article and maybe a YouTube video into the Livestorm chat, and that will give you detailed information on where you can download the answers from your presentations. But you definitely can do that. How do you reveal collected answers again? I'm not sure what you mean by that. If you ask again, maybe clarify a little bit. I think what you might mean is you can hit H to hide answers so that they don't appear straight away. And then when you hit H again, that will reveal all the answers. I think that's what that might be referring to, but let me know if I've got that wrong, and I'll try and do my best to answer it. How do I use this in Zoom? Good question, common question. It's basically the same as you would use any kind of presentation platform. You can just share your screen on Zoom, or you can share your screen in Microsoft Teams as well, and it gives you and it's the same as that basically. Again, we have some YouTube videos on this. We have a couple of help articles, I think, that will show you how best to use Mentimeter with Zoom and Teams. But it's super easy, and it's definitely possible. Is always anonymous. For all intents and purposes, yes. You can, I mean, when you ask open-ended questions, people can sign off with their name, and obviously that's not going to be anonymous. If it's a small enough room where it's maybe pretty obvious who's writing what, then maybe it's not that anonymous. But generally, yes, yeah, it's always anonymous. Training the life cycle of code is 2 days. It's possible to reuse or change. Always I think it is possible to reuse. I'm not entirely sure on this. I've not actually done it myself. I think there is a help article on voting codes, but that being said, I would say that the easiest way is to use the voting link or to use the QR code, because then that's never going to expire. It's never going to change, and you can just use that instead, and then you've got the peace of mind that it's not going to change. I think there are possible ways around it. If you're really interested in this, send me an email. I'll show you my email at the end, and I'll ask some of my colleagues and see what the answer is. But my recommendation would always be to use the voting link anyway. Can we use it in WebEx? Maybe I'm a bit of a technological noob, but I don't know what WebEx is. I'm afraid. I don't know if Emma can maybe answer that one in the chat. If Emma knows what WebEx is, it might be a really obvious thing. I'm not the most high-tech person in the world. I'm a words guy, so not sure about that one. Yeah, Emma's answered that one in the chat. Thanks so much, Emma. Do videos in PowerPoint import well? I'm not sure. My knee-jerk reaction is no. I don't think they would. At the moment, the only way to put videos into Mentimeter is for it to be on YouTube, and then you can embed the link and you can show it. I can show you actually how that works. Bear with me. Let me go to our YouTube.
Today, we're going to look at...
Oh, there it is. So let's find Oscar. Here we are. So let me just demonstrate how you can put videos into Mentimeter. Here we go. Let me get back to my presentation. Here we are on a new slide. Here. And so we have a dedicated video slide just here on the right-hand side, and you can hit that, and then you just pop in the YouTube URL and add it, and then you can add a little caption. On Zoom and Teams. Oh, yeah. So that's how you do that. That is the way to do it at the moment. So I'll move on to the next question, because I feel like I've blabbed long enough on that one, I think. What's the next question? Let me get back to my presentation. Does the QR code expire? I'm pretty sure it doesn't. Emma might be able to correct me on this one, but I don't think the QR code does expire. I think it's the same as the web link. I'm pretty sure it stays the same. Yes, Emma can confirm that the QR code does not expire, so that's good. There's a little shortcut as well if you want to, if you're presenting like I am now and you want people to join using a QR code, you can hit K. Oh, no, not K. Is it I? It's I. I is the shortcut, and you can show up the QR code there and also the details for joining with the code in large, but the QR code is super useful, and that's just a link to the link. Last question, I think this is. Oh yeah, does it work with Zoom? Yes, it does. I can actually, I've got the video right here, so I can show you that. Yes, Oscar, in his brilliant way, can show you how to use Mentimeter with Zoom and Microsoft Teams. I'll just wait and see. Oh, there's some other questions. How to make a quiz? Yes, probably should have covered this, but we've still got a little bit of time, so I can definitely show you how to do this. Let's have a look, toggling back and forth. Here we are. So if you wanted to create a quiz, you can, we have a few different options, actually. We can have 100 points, probably the best, or who will win, but 100 points is quite fun. So, oh no, sorry, that's wrong. Beg your pardon. Let me go back. It's because I'm on audience pace. That's why. That is why. Yeah. So quizzes. Just down here, you've got the sort of popular question types, or regular question types, which are just sort of in the moment and don't carry over. But you can also go to quiz competitions down here, and you can add in the questions and the different options for answers. You can decide which one is correct, like I've chosen the middle one, or you can go for the first one. And people, when they join, they'll put in their name when they participate. You can have limited times for people answering, so you can cap it and make sure that there's a little bit of time pressure there, and you can have it so that faster correct answers get more points, and then once you have a few of these, you will get a leaderboard as well, which is super fun, and we'll sort of show you question by question if that's what you want, or you can just do it at the end, how everyone's doing and who's winning the quiz. So I hope that's answered that one. Let me see if we have any more questions. One more. Can you show the difference between what the presenter sees versus the audience and how to control that? I've only got my one computer today. Usually if I was in the office, I'd be able to do this a little bit more with a little bit more sleekness. But today I'm a little bit limited. That's why I'm sort of toggling back and forth. So I can't show you, but I can say that there are help articles, and there is some YouTube videos where they explain these differences. The key thing is the Mentimeter, which is, let me go out of this actually. We have the Mentimeter here, which gives you the option to have the presentation on one screen while you're controlling it with another device, which is useful if you're collaborating with somebody else, or if someone else is helping you present. That's super useful. but yeah, pretty much what you see is what you would see when you are presenting a PowerPoint or Google Slides. You can see the slides, and you can see people's responses coming up. So I think that's it. I don't think there are any more questions. We've pretty much run out of time, so I will just end and say thank you so much for participating. It's been a real pleasure talking to you today and being host rather than moderator. If you do have any outstanding questions, if there was anything I couldn't answer, but I can definitely ask some of my colleagues, if it's anything that I didn't answer today that you really want to know the answer to, you can email me. It's thomas.dawson@mentimeter.com. You can sign up for other webinars. We've got other webinars besides the Getting Started webinar, more expert webinars on our webinars tab. So if you go to mentimeter.com/webinars, you can join some of those. You may then meet Oscar. Again, YouTube is such a great resource. Any of these real standard questions like Zoom, PowerPoint, that kind of thing, there's tons of content there, and Oscar explains much better than I can, I think. So definitely make use of that. You can add me on LinkedIn if you like, and you can also ask me questions there if that's your preferred medium. And I would also like to invite you to join our Facebook group, Mentimeter Super Presenters, where we've got a bit of a community of people who are experienced Mentimeter users who have a lot of experience using the platform and like to have other people come in, and they can share their tips and tricks and bits of advice, and any questions that you have, you can also might want to bring them up there. So that is pretty much it. I will call this to a halt. Thank you so much for being here, and I hope you had a good time. So that's it. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.